Welcome to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. Your host, a behavioral scientist and bachelor, talks to leading experts and successful singles about living solo and living well. Travel more, make things, sleep in when you want to. Here's the playbook for the person who is unapologetically unattached. Now, please welcome Dr. Peter McGraw.
Welcome back. If you're looking for a wake-up call, this episode is it. To be honest, I don't think I can do a good job summarizing this extremely fun conversation. I'm recording this right afterwards, and I'm so energized by my guest, Rolonda Watts, and guest co-host, Lily Rains. Rolonda lives a good life as a single for now, and as a reinventionist, a term she invented. Hence why she is the third guest in a 4-episode series on reinvention. Rolonda's approach to reinvention focuses on the positive and an ask to follow your dreams. I think you'll enjoy how she and Lily hit it off. Frankly, once we get going, they really don't need me. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I certainly did. Let's get started. Welcome to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. I'm Peter McGraw. Today's guest is Rolonda Watts. Rolonda is an author, comedian, voice actor, talk show host, and host of the podcast Rolonda On Demand. Most relevant to today, she is a reinventionist and the creator of Rolonda's Reinvention Retreat, Come Grow with Ro. Well, Rolonda, we're joined by a return guest co-host, Lily Rains. She is our reigning F-bomb co-host champion, which is something that we were talking about beforehand. And Lily is a storyteller, arts educator, crafter of needlework, and maker of homemade ice cream. Though solo, Lily loves to be part of an ensemble with a shared goal, be it on a softball field, in an escape room, or getting a play, movie, or TV show made. And there's a rumor that she's been working on some voiceover work. We'll have to see. And this is Lily's third appearance on Solo, magic number 3. So welcome, Lily.
Hi, it's so good to be here.
Welcome back, Lily.
Hi, Peter. Hi.
So these two are already fast friends. So in our warm-up, they were already bonding. So
we lucked out because Rolonda's friends apparently with everybody, including the guy in your business center.
Yes. There was a guy trying to print something in the business center and overheard me talking. He goes, I don't mean to be eavesdropping, but I know.
No. It started as a Peter, so respectfully kind of asking this guy, hey, so after you print your thing, would you mind just ever so softly closing that door behind you? And he was like, I don't mean to be eavesdropping, but do you want to hear some synchronicity right now?
Lil, tell us, Lil.
Yeah. So a little over a year ago, I buy my neighbor's old 20-year-old RAV4. I love this car. It's my most favorite car I've ever owned in my entire life. I've driven her across the country a couple times, and I named it after the mom, Ro.
Get out.
For real. And then I was just offered an opportunity to do a radio play. And I was like, oh, do I do it? Do I not do it? Because I would have to drive back out to LA. And it turns out the timing worked out perfectly. And the character's name, Ro.
You know something? This is called synchronicity.
Exactly.
There are no mistakes in life. The law of attraction, all of that come into place.
That's like those magical days. That's my goal in life, to live one magical day strung together by more yeses that lead to synchronicity. It's just all of it.
A string of yeses, a string of rows. You're living a good life, Lily.
A string of rows.
Well, I'm going to interrupt this love fest for a moment to get this podcast going.
Lily and I bonded immediately.
So this is the third installment on a mini-series on reinvention. And as you can tell from Ro's bio, she is an ideal guest to bring this home as our third expert. And so I just want to step back for a second. I have been working on this kind of model. I would call it a new narrative for single people. And I'm using the 3 R's. And these are my R's. And so people can disagree with me about them. The first one is to recognize our domestication. That is to recognize that the world wants us to behave in a particular way It's going to give us norms and rules. It's going to reinforce some behaviors and it's going to punish other behaviors. And one of the things that the world wants us to do is to couple up forever. And as you know, if you're a listener to this podcast, I believe that that is overprescribed. That is that some people are meant to be coupled up and other people maybe not, or maybe only be coupled up for a little while in their life and not for all of their life. And so we are here to celebrate being single for now or forever. And that brings us to the second R, an act of rebellion, a rebellion against those norms, against those rules, to deviate, to be unconventional, to be atypical, and to step away from those. And we have 3 people on this podcast who are doing that. And the last R is that when you are recognizing your domestication, when you are rebelling against it, it affords you opportunities to behave in ways that are good for you, that allow you to live the best life you can. But this requires an act of reinvention to change your life in whatever way you deem important in order to live that good life. And as I like to say, being single affords you time, energy, resources that you might normally be putting into that forever type relationship. And so I have been looking for inspiration for listeners and then looking for ways to think about reinvention. And with that, I'm going to ask you, Ro, how did you become a reinventionist? And did you invent that term?
Yes, I did invent that term and trademarked it. And I felt that it was a word that really explained who I am. You know, back in the day when people were, especially women, were supposed to be in a box, and I was dreaming outside of being just a news reporter and just a journalist or just a or a producer back in my news days. I even had dreams of going to Hollywood and doing acting, and people thought I was crazy. They were like, "You're unfocused. You're schizophrenic. Something's wrong with you." And I'm just like, no, God just gave me a lot of gifts, and my gift back to God is to use them correctly. That didn't make a lot of sense. But yet I saw people who were so unhappy where they were, whether it was in a relationship, whether it was in a job, whether it was with themselves, that change was something that they desperately needed to embrace to have a fulfilled and happy life. But nobody was inspiring them to do that. They would look at me and go, "Ro, everything you do, you love." I said, "That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be happy on this earth." And that means change. You have to embrace change, and whether it's in yourself, because either you change or the world's going to change for you, and you're going to have to. A year and a half ago, I started Rolonda's Reinvention Retreat just to talk about facing change, embracing it, facing the fear, doing it anyway. How do we deal with worry, doubt, and fear, that type of thing? And people were like, "Okay, I'm into this, but I don't quite get the reinvention thing." Skip to COVID. Everybody understands what reinvention is. Everybody came running to my retreat. "Hey, can you help me? Can you get?" And, so I think this is a beautiful time. It's something I've always embraced because, quite honestly, I get bored very easily. And I can't imagine having a job for 34 years and getting the gold watch. That has never been part of my plan. And I want to be an actor, and I want to write, and I want to report news, and I want to interview people. And these are all of my great skills. And I think it would be a travesty for me not to tap into my capabilities, abilities, desires, greatest loves, and give that back to the world. I think we have so much within us. There's that old saying, if you don't go within, you go without. And this reinvention thing, this life thing is an inside job. It's about finding your happy spot, finding your greatest gifts, tapping into who you were as a kid. That's where we find a lot of our clues. But I think people get so stymied and so stuck by what the neighbor's going to say, what my mom is going to say. My father told me I should always be a salesman. How can I possibly be a painter?
Yeah, this is part of that domestication.
Right.
I want to pause for applause. Can we pause for applause on that?
Thank you, Lily.
I want that to be my alarm clock. I want to wake up to hearing you say that.
But it is. But if you think about it, let me be your alarm clock. Let me come here and wake you up. Because most of us are walking around in a stupor, in an unhappy funk. And it's just about reinventing some part of your life. I spoke with somebody on my podcast today who is a famous journalist who has turned veganist. Talk about reinvention. But under COVID, people are talking about their health. How can I be more immune? What can I do to be better prepared for the next health crisis? Reinvention happens in your eating, in your health. It happens in raising your children. It happens in how we are hiring people in our offices now, how we're looking at people who don't look like us. Reinvention is how we look at how the law should treat us, how our government should treat us. This is a time of the most massive reinvention I have ever thought I would ever experience. And I've been around a while and I've seen a lot. But I think I'm just beginning, because think about how new and fresh the world is going to be once people embrace change and embrace it. It's not what happens to us. It's the labels and the pictures and the stories we give the things that happen to us.
Indeed.
That really tell what kind of quality of life we're going to have. We live everything by our stories.
Yeah.
And if you don't make those delicious, good stories, then you're going to live nightmares all your life. And nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, I mean, so that's part of this reason of giving singles a different narrative, a different way to think of the world than the one that's being placed in their laps. You said all of these things that already, I'm like, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. But one of the things is this idea of the polymath, the generalist, the person who dabbles a lot, who has hobbies and businesses. And, that I have this saying, which is, I want to do it all. From my time on I feel sometimes a little rushed because I'm like, I got to get this in. I only have X more years on the planet, right? I want to do it all. And in a world that in some ways rewards specialization when it may come to like business success, economic success, but the world really rewards generalization when it comes to a breadth of experience, gaining new skills, learning about the world. And this requires, though, this starting and stopping process, I
don't like generalities. I love being a specific item on the list of things in life. I love being the reinventionist. I love being Rolonda by one name. I love being specific. I don't like the generalization. General is you go to your job 9 to 5. You do what your mother told you to do. You come home, you eat your dinner, you go to bed, you kiss the kid if you're lucky, and you go to sleep and you get up and you do it all over again. Why don't we add a little more jazz to life?
That's fair. Some more spice to our...
More spice, yeah.
Well, when I thought of a generalist, I thought of like, you have this toolbox, versus the one person who walks around with a hammer and everything looks like a nail. Oh. The generalist has a toolbox. And so, for example, you've done stand-up comedy. I've seen you performing on, in video and so on. And it's like, well, you can turn the dial up on the comedy when you need to. And then my guess is at times you can turn the dial up on being more of a therapist or a coach when you need to.
Well, Peter, you bring up an excellent example there of where reinvention really helps. My story, and we all have a story. Where were you when the bomb came down at COVID-19? I was moving from LA to New York. I had shipped all of my stuff to New York. I was here to sell my house and get out of here March 28th. And I've been here since March 13th. I was on my way to do a comedy tour. We were going to kick it off on April 20th. We were going to do a cannabis comedy tour. And I was going to do a big performance at the Gotham. My comedy career was kicking off. That was one of my reinventions. And then COVID went, So I had to reinvent again. I looked at a friend of mine. I said, do you mean I have to I've reinvented myself 20 times. I got to do it again. She said, that's life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I started thinking, what can I give? I can't leave. There's nothing. What can I give? I'm at an age where I have done so much. I've met so many people. I've learned so much. It's my time to give back now. How can I be of service? How can I use my gifts that I enjoy of service? So I started the Rolonda's Reinvention Retreat. I started my voice acting masterclass because I had a lot of people in my reinvention retreat saying, I don't need to figure out what I want to do. I've always dreamed of doing the voice acting that you're doing. And my reinventionist insisted I start a masterclass. I've never taught a class in my life. We're on to our third session now. I've got students who have already gotten animation auditions, audio book auditions. They are building their demo reels. I'm looking at people who have turned their lives around because of doing something they love to do and being in loving, trusting care, I hope, under my class, that they're well on their way. Who knew? I never dreamed I would be doing that 6 months ago, 8 months ago. But because the universe put it there for me to do it, it created another avenue. But I was open to reinvention. If you open your mind and you ask for help, I know this sounds real woo-woo, but I really believe that if you ask the universe to show you the way, I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of quieting my mind because my world is so crazy and I'm running my mouth half the time. I need to learn to be quiet, listen a little bit.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, listen, we're all podcasters and speakers and teachers. And there are times when we have to get more information from the universe so that we can serve better. And, I just think that this is a time where, try it. Do that thing you've always dreamed. I was listening to Bob Proctor the other day, and he brought up a great example. He says, people aren't thinking like they should. More people need to think more, and they need to dream more. He was like Martin Luther King said, I have a dream today. He didn't say I have a plan. He didn't say I have a strategy today. I have a book to keep today. He said, I have a dream today. Start with your dream. And I think one of the saddest things that happens is we get so bogged down by what we believe are the realities of life that we forget what is real in life. And that is, the day-to-day, staying positive, being grateful, not understanding that you don't have control over everything, but you've got control over your gifts and you've got control over what you can do with your art and your skills. And I think that we're at a time where we're really going to have to count on ourselves more than the outside forces. We're inside. Everything you're going to find is an inside job. It's in you, just waiting for you to notice it.
And with that, I just have to say the benefit of being older is that you now have the years to reflect back upon and understand why you said yes to that job at the X-ray center and why you said yes to that job pulling coffee or why you met those people or went to that, dinner party. All the things that like the 25-year-olds who are thinking that they know everything coming out of college or, getting that whatever job that they might be fighting for. They think that security is exactly what they want because their lives have been in flux. And then cut to 15 years later, and they're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And the wisdom that you're sharing and the gratitude that is just exuding off of you for having that experience. Yeah. That comes with age and that comes with more experience. Like, where were you when this happened? Where were you do you remember the 100 years war that we had in the Middle East? Or 100 hours war that we had? Do you remember the Cold War? Do you remember where you were during 9/11? Do you remember where you were when they shut down the country because of COVID? Like, these are events that we can now share with the other people who are alive at that time. And those are markers for us to then reflect back to, I was too young, I was a kid, or I was in the middle of my career and the entire building came down.
Right. When I talk to my reinventionists who are your age, Lily, I remind them and their jaws drop to their chest. I say, when I started in the business, in the news business, because I was an anchor woman and investigative news reporter in New York City for many years on ABC, NBC, Inside Edition, there were 3 networks. ABC, NBC, CBS, that was it. There was no MTV, there was no Hulu, there was no doodly-doo.
There was no Fox.
There was no Fox. Fox and Lifetime were these little piddly stations coming up.
And you had to, if you had to change the channel, you had to get up off the couch, walk across the room, and turn the dial.
Or put some tinfoil on your youngest child and tell them to stand by the TV. I remember when you had to wait till the TV heated up for 10 minutes. I remember when the TV went off at 12 o'clock midnight and Hash would come on after they played the national anthem.
National anthem.
So when young people like you come along and say, I don't know how I'm going to make it, I just sit back and say, child, please don't even waste time with me like that. Because you have the internet. There's so much available. And I tell people my age that too, who are stuck in that, I can't deal with this technology. Get on YouTube and learn the technology. Mm-hmm. Get Lily over to your house every Saturday and pay her to teach you something, old lady. Get in the game.
Well, We got to pause for a second. I am overwhelmed with flattery. I'm 41.
You are not 41, Lily.
Oh, girl, I am 41. Look at this. I'm moving my microphone so you can see my face.
Lily, you are 23 if you are not a day. I'm 41, Lily. Don't take my age.
I'm about to get in my row and I'm going to drive out to you row. I'm going to make out with you.
Listen, and you can still be my daughter, and I love that.
All right,
I'm honored,
you two.
and I thank you.
I know.
All right, you two.
Oh, Peter, you're still here?
Hey, Peter.
Peter.
I'm just going to step away for a little while.
Peter says, looks like I'm doing this solo.
So I really do like this idea of if you're not happy with your life, change it.
Yeah.
You know, if you are not happy with your life, change it. Now, I have to say this, I have to ask this, because one thing that I know is that change is difficult. And change is difficult for a variety of reasons. The most prominent reason is that it's something called the status quo bias. So it's fueled by what we call loss aversion or the negativity bias. So when someone contemplates a change, to start a new career, to leave a relationship, to get in shape, to whatever it might be, to move to a new city, to travel the world, that means that person has some good things that are going to come of it, but there's going to be some bad things that come of it because change is difficult. And psychologically, for the average person, losses loom larger than gains. That is, the negative things loom larger on our emotions, on our psyche, on our thoughts than gains do. And so that leads us to have to work extra hard to make change. That's the first thing. The second one is no one ever teaches us how to make change. Right? No one ever does that. So the first thing is you have to overcome your natural bias to keep things the way they are. And then the second one is you need to figure out how you're going to make this change, because every change, every reinvention requires different skills. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe there's something universal about it. I want to hear from you, Ro, if there's something universal about it.
You know, there are those who stand by, the fact that we are the only species on the earth that don't have a natural habitat, really. If you look at all the animals, the eagle, the squirrel, the fox, the coyote, everything's got a natural habitat. They blend right in. They do the stuff. The beaver does the den. The bear does the cave. We are the only species on earth that has the blessing, the gift, the ability,
the burden,
the challenge. There you go. I say challenge, not burden or problems. I don't deal with that. Challenge to create our own environment. We are the ones that can create our own world. We have the master minds to articulate the world we want to live in. And so few people take the time to hear what they really desire in life. And when they say, I want this, they usually say it by, I hate this. I hate my job. I don't like this. I hate my wife. I hate my kids. I hate that. That's not how you move to the next place. Okay. Focusing on what your dream world would like at. I would love to have kids who did well in school, and I'm going to do everything I can to support them. I would love to have a wife who paid attention to me every once in a while. Now you're putting in the universe what you want instead of bringing all the negativity that you've already got compounded upon you. You must reinvent the way you speak to yourself. You must reinvent your language, your word choices. Like I don't let my reinventionist say the word problem. That's a word that's not allowed in my reinvention retreat. Okay. It is called a challenge. Challenge, when you say, I got a problem, feel how that feels to you. And then say, boy, I got a challenge today. Oh, that's almost like, yarr, let me at her. Oh, get you, my pretty. Let me at her. You know, that brings out that spirit in you. You got to get your fighter spirit back on. Yeah. You know, I learned so much I am so not a sports person at all, but I was so touched by Kobe Bryant and the legacy that he left. Even for those of us who don't understand one doggone thing about bouncing a ball or putting it in a rope. But he talked about the Mamba mentality, getting that ball in that hoop no matter what. I talked to some of the basketball players from the Women of Troy. You know, we talk about pivoting in life. That's what they do. That's what they do to win the game. So how can we pivot and win the game. What is that mindset? It's such a mindset. I think this is a time, and I embrace it myself, totally transparent talking here, to work on yourself during this time. You know, people are like, let me work on what's my next job. Work on yourself. You'll figure the rest out. Mm-hmm. But right now, from Wednesday to Friday, I bet you have nothing to do. So go pick up Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Go read a little of Les Brown or listen to a few of Tony Robbins' speeches. Listen to some more of the podcasts that Peter and Lily have done here that are so resoundingly positive and embracing change. And really ask yourself the questions. If I really could have my life perfectly, what would it look like? Dr. Maya Angelou was my auntie, not by blood, but a very close friend. And for almost 40 years, we were friends. Every Thanksgiving we spent at her house, the holidays, the whole bit. And I remember I used to say, there were times I was going through it in my different careers. I love being a reinventionist, an entrepreneur, an artist, but let's face it, you have good stretches and you have really bad stretches.
Yeah, there's uncertainty. It can be very hard. Yes.
I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk, who I absolutely love, the cyber guru, says in his words, entrepreneurialism sucks. He just says it sucks because you have your good days and your bad days. But here's the thing. It's not the end goal that really is the key. It's really the process. And I think, Lily, as you talk about me being a woman of a certain age, I'm a mature woman. Hey, I'm 61. I'm proud of it. I earned those years. Okay. But I've learned that it's not the end goal. Because when you get the end goal, you're going to be looking for the next thing that's going to take you 3 years. That's right. It's the process. What are you learning about yourself when you hit that time when that person said no to your script? What'd you learn about yourself? What'd you decide to do? Fold up, go home, throw it in a drawer, say, screw him, and go on about your business? Or did you say, okay, buddy, here we go. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Yarg! Did you put on your pirate? You put on your pirate, no matter what.
I love everything that you're saying. And I want to say that when I mention the gratitude of age and the years, that is in the we're all in the same ship right now, or at least in the same sea, pirating our lives. In fact, me moving, I just moved in the middle of COVID and have completely taken uproot from my hometown, and I have pirated my life, and that is how I've been calling it.
That's right.
For the last handful of months.
Right? So, you've been saying that?
Isn't that something? Yep. And the difference between that mindset, Lily, is the difference between being shipwrecked, lost at sea, or marooned. You claimed land ho!
Yes! I said, I'm going to go meet some new mermaids in another cove.
That's right.
Let's
go. You got your treasure island, girl. Listen.
Everyone's like, do you know where you're going? I was like, no, but I got my parrot on my shoulder.
That's right.
I got my gut and my knowledge of all my maps in my brain.
That's right.
I'm going to fucking go.
Captain
in my row.
On your shoulder. That's right. I just did a production, speaking. This is why a bunch of Broadway producers and actors from Broadway did this whole audio, speaking of reinvention, it's called an immersive audio experience, 3D experience. These are people who have reinvented their talents from Broadway. They miss you, audience. They don't have the big overture and the all of the things that Broadway gives us. So they put it into audio. A group called Resounding. They just did Dracula. This weekend, Friday and Saturday, we just did Treasure Island. I played Pete the Pirate. And I play 3 different pirates, men, talk about reinventing yourself. As an actor, I can play but so much at this age. As a voice actor, I can play everything from a sponge to a screwdriver to a parrot to a pirate to a man, So it's finding new ways that you can really exude. Lily, I'm grabbing you in my voice acting class. Go on.
Can I? Yeah. So I want to.
Peter, you're still here.
I am. Yes. So I'm enjoying this as someone who tends to overtalk on his own podcast. This is a welcome respite for my listeners. I think this is really wonderful. So I had a question here about, Rolonda, what do we expect from a reinvention retreat? Well, I'm already getting a glimpse at it, right? So one is, I can see the motivation. I can see the inspiration. Like, I'm pumped up right now. And so I think that's really wonderful. Like, your positivity. I like the term unapologetic. You are unapologetic. And I like that about clearly how you live your life. And so I can see how that's beneficial to the folks who do your retreats. The other thing that I see is there's a focus on positivity. That is, like, you are pursuing dreams, not avoiding nightmares. And this focus even on language, using the right language, that you're using positive language rather than negative language. So we've got this idea of motivation, inspiration, positivity, but what else do you do? What else does someone get from this retreat besides just getting pumped up? Because you're not just a motivational speaker. You have tools that you have. What are some of the things for the listener who is totally pumped up right now, who's starting to talk like a pirate, and they want to, as I said, they want to plan their first international trip. They want to pursue the life that they were meant to lead. Where are the initial steps?
The first thing you do is go to rolonda.com, ROLONDA, and save your seat for Rolonda's retreat. It's a free webinar. And when you give me your email, I can send out when I'm about to go live. And we do a whole live thing. I have a great group of folks, a lot of repeat attenders. I call them, like I did with my talk show in New York. I said, it's the only time. I call them my rats, Rolonda's repeat attender team. I said, it's the only time in New York you want to be called a rat. But people keep coming back and they keep coming back. That's just the initial thing. It's totally free. It's a community building thing where we'll pick a subject and we'll talk about it for an hour and a half and ask questions. And so that's good. But if you really want, like, a lot of my students will have like an idea, a book that they're thinking about, or a podcast that's haunting them, and they don't know where to begin. They don't know where to start. We have a workshop group that we do. I only take about 10 to 12 students so that we can really focus on each of their dreams and desires and exchange ideas, much like a thought leadership group or a community group to help each other. And then there's some people who know exactly what they want to do, whether it's to start a new community in social media. I had a young person now who was binary and wanted to start having a voice in the community. So we got her set up in social media, started building her community, and talking a lot about the courage that it takes to make this change. I've helped a young woman who had sewing skills, had never done anything, but needed some extra change. And I said, well, what is your passion? She said, I love my grandchildren. Next thing we knew, we started a baby bib company for her online.
I watched that video about that.
Did you watch that?
Yes.
Baby bibs. She wanted to do hats and clothes. I said, no. Let's start it simple at first. And see, just a lot of times, just having somebody to talk with, to bounce ideas with. We're so isolated. And if I don't know, I know enough people in 40 years in this business of broadcasting and entertainment to know who to call for you. And if I don't know, I'll find out. But for the most part, it's basically people who just need somebody to not judge them. A lot of people won't even say, I really want to start a class online, because people are going to go, girl, why are you wasting your time online? Why are you, they don't want to hear all that. So their dreams, this is what I say to my reinventionists. Whatever you do, do not be the world's best kept secret.
I love it.
You drive by graveyards, and Peter, I'm sitting out there going, like, look at all the inventions that are there in the ground.
Yeah.
Look at all the books that never got written, or the poetry that never got sown.
What's the saying? There's like, don't die with the music inside you. Right?
I tell you, when I wrote my novel, Destiny Lingers, and Dr. Maya Angelou read it, and she eventually endorsed it. I wasn't sure. I was scared. I didn't know if I could write. Here I am, a writer, for God's sakes. I studied English and journalism at Spelman and Columbia, but still I had the doubts, the little devil in your ear. And she said, don't you let this story die inside of you. And that blew me away. I sat down at that typewriter, the computer, and I wrote that, not because she haunted me. Sometimes it just takes a little mastery of, how mamas do and aunties do. They make you feel guilty if you don't get to work.
That's community, but what a beautiful balance between you have to go within in order to create anything, in order to identify who you are, but you also need to be in community.
Right. And basically what we're creating is a safe space where people who quite honestly didn't understand what the heck I was talking about a year and a half ago come running in saying, oh my God, you're here too. You're here too. Yeah, we're all in this together. We might have come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now.
Arg.
Arg. And we make it happen. We've seen some amazing, and it's just a joy that the universe or God or whatever gave me an opportunity to be able to inspire and teach people and just help them along the way, asking the right questions, making sure you have accountability. When I talk about retreat, I break down the letters as an acronym. We say R stands for recreation, but if you look at that word in a different way, it's recreation. It should be fun. E is enthusiasm. I love the word enthusiasm because the root is theos, God. So when you were enthusiastic about something, honey, that's going to happen. If there's something you can't stop thinking about, it's already done. Get with it. It's waiting for you. God believes in matching grants. Meet him 50-50. He came 50 to you. What you going to do? You got to do the work. That's the other thing. People dream and forget they got to do the work.
Yeah.
This is a 50-50 deal. What steps are you putting into place right now toward your dream? What are the 6 things tonight you're going to make a list of that you're going to wake up in the morning and do? And what you don't get on that list, you put it for the next day. But is it going toward your goal? Is it going toward your dream? Going shopping at Target this afternoon is not helping you become the voice actor you want to be.
No, as I like to say, you want to create more than you consume. And going to Target is an act of consumption. It's not an act of creation.
That's right.
And so if you can forego that trip and instead write or paint or make,
unless it's a focused trip with a list that's going to give you the tools that you need to get your shit done.
Right. If you're going to go get a hammer and a screwdriver in that toolbox that Peter was talking about, then that's one thing.
What does T stand for?
There's R for recreation or recreation, E for enthusiasm, T is for testimony. Your story is everything. Your story is everything. I have so many people who come to me telling a story of the fire they just ran out of. But that's your testimony. So when you become great and successful, you're going to tell about that time. Do you know why I became a voice actor? I'm Professor Wiseman on Curious George. I do Legos, Madagascar, Judge Joe Brown, Divorce Court, Wells Fargo, McDonald's, everything. But it was because when I moved to Hollywood, had given up my talk show, moved to Hollywood to be an actor, something I'd always dreamed of doing since I was a kid. But there weren't opportunities for little Black girls in the 70s coming out of college. So I fell in love with journalism and took that route, reinvented myself. Then I said, after I did my talk show and magazine news and anchoring and reporting the news in New York City, I finished my talk show and I said, hey, I finally am free. I'm not hung up by a contract. I don't have anything tying me down like a lot of people don't. I'm going to Hollywood. I'm going to take a chance. If you don't risk in life, you don't live. And I'm not going to be 100,000 years old sitting on a porch going, I coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yes.
I could have been a contender if I'd only tried. No, don't let any sentence in your life start off, I should have.
One thing about living in Los Angeles that I love, I think some people find it annoying, but I find it uplifting. It's one of the things I love about LA is it's a city of dreamers.
Yeah.
People come to Los Angeles to pursue their dreams. Now, they may not be successful, and most of them aren't. It's a tough business. But, however, nevertheless, those people will not sit on their porch in their later years going,
that's right,
I coulda, woulda, shoulda, because they tried it. You know what I mean? There's going to be no regrets on that side.
That's right. That's right.
There's an ambition and a hustle in LA and New York that I know I moved to the Twin Cities here in Minneapolis during COVID, but there really is just a different pace. There's a different pulse. There's a different hustle, right?
Let me tell you something. As much as the pulse and hustle in New York and LA are what they are, they're not that way anymore.
Well, not right now.
No, everybody's got the same kind of throttling kind of life right now. You know,
But I will say that the people my community in both LA and New York, they are far more active. Granted, I don't have the years of friendships for this new locale. But when I ask people like, hey, so what are other people doing right now? They're like, oh no, everyone has a career. They didn't rebel. They stuck out with the thing that they're practical. And the practical and the following along is not as prominent in those bigger cities. Although I will say that is a trap, because there is a rat race. You're on a track on maybe a larger turntable. Yeah. But there is a bit of I'm a producer, so I'm doing this. Right. And I'm an actor, so I'm doing that. I'm a director, so I'm doing this. And you still have to buck against that system. So the rebelling happens wherever your record is.
Yeah, I think in business, they call it being a disruptor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It's like being rebellious, but to disrupt something. I mean, who's to say me as a little Black girl from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, can't be all of these things? Back in 1959, when I was born, nobody expected me to be an anchor woman on WABC TV. No one expected me to anchor the news and be a senior correspondent on Inside Edition. Nobody expected me to own 7 houses. So I disrupted everything that was expected of me. And I will continue to do that.
I want to ask about that. So why you? Like, why, what was it about? Because I think all three of us have a little bit of that. We're living a life we weren't supposed to live. I reflect on how I should be managing an enterprise rent-a-car outlet right now. That's the path. If you plugged all the things in my life as a young man into an algorithm, it would have spit out. And by the way, I would do it well.
Oh, hell yeah.
Not that I'd be bad at it.
Yeah. We know we're good at it. Right. Yeah.
And instead I've lived this, it's a magical life. You know what I mean? Yes, it has its challenges, but most of the challenges are sort of homegrown. Like I create my own along the way.
But Peter, you're so engaged in life.
Yes.
I've been following you before you asked me to do this podcast. I've been listening to some of your stuff and following you in some social media places, but you are so engaged and curious about life. It's almost like you gulp it up. And that has a lot to do with the stuff that drives you. Nobody could tell you to sit down and be quiet in a corner if they tried.
So then for both of you, Lily,
I know you tried.
Lily and Rose, so what was it like? Why is it that you were able to break out? Why was it that you were able to hit the third R that we're talking about today?
I think it's bravery. I think it takes a lot of chutzpah. Bravery, courage. Dr. Maya Angelou says courage is the greatest of all virtues, because without courage, you can't exude or exhibit any other virtue with consistency. You can't be kind with consistency. You can't love with consistency. So I think it's consistency. It's showing up. It's doing what you say you're going to do. It's accountability. That's an A in my retreat. The other E is execution, enthusiasm and execution, because nothing happens without massive action. And the last T is for triumph and and your final testimony. A triumph is a great thing.
Yeah. I will say that I come across as really confident, and I'm okay with that, but I've always defined myself more as curious and courageous.
Okay.
And so with my stories, the stories that have happened to me, that have happened because of me, that have happened regardless of whether or not I wanted them to, I had a natural anger and a natural sense of right and wrong. And I've had some shitty things happen from early ages that just set me into a space of as though I were not outside my body, but outside the system that was okay with letting shit go, and called it out. And was like, I'm sorry, what? And even just being that person who called it out was enough to set me on a completely different course. So even something as simple as I had long blonde hair that was past my tush when I was 2 years old, and I'm a little ballerina, I literally ran away from the preschool to go dance in the local ballet studio that was next door. And everybody wanted me to be like a little cute blonde girl who was quiet and a dancer. And my mouth was like, oh, hell fucking
Hell
no.
no.
And then like right out of college, I moved to Chicago and I'm working at a theater company. And the managing director is like, I want you to be my assistant. I want you to be an associate. I want you to help run this. Da, 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 da. You're such a girl next door. And I think she kept talking, but I don't remember hearing anything else because she said girl next door. And that night,
You're like, oh, hell no.
that night I got a septum pierce. What? I showed her. Oh, hell, like what? So there's something always been about like, what is it that was expected of me? And me going, but why?
There is something about, I don't know about you guys, but I don't like being told what to do.
No.
I hate being told what to do. I grew up with an overbearing, manipulative mother who did everything she could to get me to behave in a particular way. And I swallowed it because I was a good son. And then when I went off to college, I was just like, I am through with that. And that's when my life blossomed, and really the real Pete started to come out. I wanted to pivot this conversation and talk about some different types of reinvention, if I may. So in a previous podcast episode called Solo Thoughts, number 5, I talk about this model that I have for living a good life. And it has these 2 elements to it. So it has the foundation and it has the flourishing part of it. And so I want to go through this just briefly. And then if the 2 of you want to comment on sort of different types of reinvention associated with it. So on the foundation side of it, it's like your environment and your look, right? Your home, how you look. Like we think about makeovers in this kind of way. Your health. Are you getting sleep? Are you eating well? Are you exercising? Do you feel good? Are you energized? Your wealth. Right? Are you pursuing financial freedom? Right? Are you being limited by your debts or your lack of income? And then the last one is your team, as I like to call it, your relationships, personal and professional. Maybe some people need to get jettisoned. Maybe you need to develop some stronger ones. Maybe you need to repair some relationships because solos need a team. We don't have the one, we have the ones. And then once you take care of the foundation, then you can move on to growth, to flourishing. And that can happen in a variety of different ways. I won't go into all of it, but for example, you may lean into your creative work as a writer, as an artist, or even as an entrepreneur, which is a creative activity. Maybe you lean into meaning. Maybe you're helping to change people's lives like Ro is in terms of helping them reinvent themselves. You have a purpose-driven life. Maybe you decide to do something that's focused on achievement. I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro. I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to build a business. I'm going to get a degree that I've always dreamed of doing, and so on and so forth. And so when you're approaching these reinventionists, bro, where do you see their reinvention? Is it happening on the foundational side of things? Is it happening on the flourishing side of things? Is there a difference?
I think it's happening. Well, it starts happening in their mind. I mean, it starts there with, let me be very self-aware and very transparent with myself that I am either happy or I'm not happy. I either want to continue this path when the cloud is up and continue this job, or I just lost this job and I'm kind of glad I did anyway. I think it's a lot of self-awareness and self-reevaluation in such a time of change. I think that one of the things that we need to do a lot more of, and myself included, is checking in to see if we're okay. Are you happy? Are you really happy in this relationship? Are you really happy being single? I've heard a lot of my single friends say, honey, after this thing, I am never going to be by myself again.
Okay.
And then I hear a lot of people who say, thank God I'm by myself because I don't know who I could stand being up under these situations with. And I happen to be on that list.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a time of reevaluation. I mean, some people, I don't know how many there are, but there are going to be some people who say, thank God, my life is so intact, I can just keep it like this. I don't know anybody like that. But there may be people who are just happy. Nothing has changed for them. They're happy where they are. But I think most of us have been hit with, if we weren't changing, one cog in the wheel of the family changes, everything changes.
Indeed. So, are you seeing these? Are you seeing these things more on the side of people being focused on their kind of taking care of business with their body, with their health, with their relationships?
Oh, yeah.
Or are you seeing these folks who are like, yeah, I got this stuff worked out, but I want to live a bigger life.
No, I'm finding that a lot of people are waking up after 6 months of not having done one thing for their body, not one thing. There's some people are feeling back pain. Some people are getting sciatica from sitting too long. You're starting to see the responses to this lack of response to a natural life.
Yes.
Many of us are getting weights at home. Weights were out. You couldn't even find weights around. Bicycles at home, stationary bicycles. People are making a change to get more active. Also eating. One of the things, particularly for the Black community, I know, since we were so hard hit by the COVID, is what are we doing in our culture that could help prevent the next health crisis? Are we eating right? Are we going to the doctor? What are the choices we're making? You've got more Black and brown people turning to veganism now more than ever before.
That's interesting.
Yeah. These are things that are changing. Maybe you have people who've decided, maybe I want to be a worker on the front line. These are our heroes.
Yeah, these
today.
are people leaning into the meaning part of this whole thing.
Right.
Yes.
So it's not only an internal job all the time. Sometimes we're influenced by what we're seeing outside. Some of us have become more generous and empathetic and compassionate than ever before. You know, a lot of us have changed our hearts so much in terms of the political unrest, the social unrest, the health unrest, that we have no other choice but to be heartfelt people. You know, it's not just somebody else anymore. I became part of the unwanting list of people who lost somebody during COVID. A very dear friend of mine I lost. I can't believe this ball of fire isn't around us anymore. And in 2 weeks, she was gone.
My condolences.
And then I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it is heartbreaking to hear other people talk. I don't know which is more heartbreaking, the loss or the complete opposite, which is people saying, oh, yeah, I knew someone who said it was like having a cold. And they're completely disconnected from what the worst part could possibly be, what the worst option might actually be. I've had a little bit of everything. So my heart goes out to you, and it makes me so mad when I hear other people say, meh, I'll just get it and it'll be fine. It'll be like a cold.
You were talking about that idea that, you know, people moving towards the front lines, you know, that idea. You know, I think about this, there's at this point in time when we're taping this, there's all this positive news about the vaccines and about their effectiveness. You know, tens of thousands of people volunteered to be part of those studies. Like they were willing to say, I'm going to take some risk for the greater good, you know, and because half of those people are in the placebo condition, right? They're not even getting the potential benefit of it. And I think they deserve our applause.
That's right.
100%.
I think there's so many heroes that are coming out of this. And I think that as much as we've seen the horridness of human nature, we've also seen some of the most beautiful aspects that we've never witnessed before in human nature. It makes me want to cry. But I just can't believe the people who wake up every day to clean out the bathrooms in public places. I can't believe the people who wipe vomit and spittle and poop off people every day who are just dying. You know, it's amazing what we as human beings are capable of.
Yeah.
And I think that now is a time where, I mean, we want to live the best life, but let's be the best people we can be. Let's be the best friend, the best family member, the best neighbor. I know my neighbors every night at 8:00, we're banging the pots. We're looking out for each other's mail for each other. We're knocking on the door. You okay? I hadn't seen you in a couple of days. This is unheard of. But this is an aspect of life that maybe COVID is trying to teach us.
Yeah.
I think this is such a horrendous curve, but it's such a learning curve and a glorious curve when we see how we come together.
Yeah, it's certainly prompting the kind of change, and I think positive change that you're pursuing with the work that you're doing, which I've seen Lily pursuing since I met her and we started doing these podcasts together. I do want to do
and
one.
being friends, Peter.
Yes, becoming friends. We have become friends. I'm missing I'm missing your holiday party this year, which makes me sad.
My Chris Pine party. Rolonda, I decorate my tree with pictures of Chris's, and I call it my Chris Pine.
Who's Chris?
Oh, well, Chris Pine.
Chris Nolan,
Anyway, he's on there too.
Christopher Reeves.
I have a Christopher Reeves. I also Christina Hendricks. I also have a wreath of Franklin's hanging on my door.
Now next year you have to do Douglas firs.
Ooh,
I love it. Lily likes her puns. She does like her puns.
A pun what?
Oh my God, you two are going to be friends after this.
I know.
Oh, Peter, you're still here.
Peter, hey Peter.
The last thing I want to cover is I want to talk a little bit about your solo journey, if you're willing, Ro.
Sure. Well, listen, why not? It's become a whole comedy routine.
All right. So tell us a little bit about your single life. And it's clearly you are making the most of your moments as a single person on this planet.
Well, it blows me away that I wrote a romance novel because I look at my real life and I go, what the heck happened?
Mm-hmm.
You have a dream and you wrote your dream. You didn't write a plan.
I tell people I've been waiting around for Mr. Right for so long. I've become the man I wanted to marry.
Yeah.
But it's, something I was married when I was very, very young and had the big wedding with 1,000 people and all that stuff. So I'm not the girl who's dreaming of the wedding.
Okay.
Been there, done that. Mm-hmm. I also know how difficult relationships are and marriage. I don't know how people do it. I really don't. I personally enjoy being single right now. I've had a lot of boyfriends, few, what do you call it? I think it was more for publicity when James Brown and Albie Sure.
You had a few entanglements.
Oh, they were fast. No, no. But I had James Brown pop the question to me live during my show. Albie Sure asked me to marry him. It was all publicity stuff. But yeah, I've been known for my proposals.
Albie Sure. Well, that's a blast from the past. A
blast from the past. The 90s were a hot time for Rolonda. I want you to know. But I'm going to tell you, like, for instance, in these times of COVID, and I wake up in the morning and I stretch and I roll over and I'm happy and nobody's asking me to make them coffee or bacon and eggs. Nobody's asking me to get anything for them, do anything for them. I love my life. That doesn't mean that I'm not open for some amazing person to walk in because I know that'll happen. Sure.
Yeah. You're a single for now person.
For now, yeah, and happy and proud of it. Mm-hmm. I had somebody the other day say, "You can't be telling the truth. Nobody can be happy being alone." I was like, honey.
My goodness.
I love my life because I have it to myself.
Can I give you some statistics for that person?
Please. Is it me or the person coming?
To tell this person who says they can't believe that you can't be happy on your own. Yeah. In the United States, 128 million single adults. 28% of households are solo. Half of single adults are not interested in dating. Half.
So I'm not by myself.
You are not by yourself. It's much more the norm. It's just the world is not talking to these people. They're not listening to these people. They're not serving these people. And that these are people who are working on the front lines, building businesses, creating new knowledge at universities, artists making music. These are the creatives fueling the world oftentimes and contributing in ways. Single people volunteer more. They give more of their money to charities. They're more generous. There is a false narrative in the world where married people are good and single people are less good. And it's complete and utter bullshit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On top of that, if you get married, there's a 35% chance you get divorced. And of those people who don't get divorced, not all of them are happy. And the way that we measure success in relationships with longevity is a perverse metric of measuring the goodness of a relationship.
100%.
That's right.
So you can play this tape to your friend and tell him or her they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Peter, I love you because, a lot of the people that I know who are together are not happy.
No.
And it is a blaring example of why I stay where I am. Even if you go out, you're the single girl and you're out with all the couples. Most of them are not happy with each other.
Well, and in fairness, you go through phases as anybody does. And
Absolutely.
I'm very lucky as a solo. I get to be moody in my own shit, right?
That's right.
I
Me
love
too.
the smell of my own shit. That's why I love myself. I've worked very hard to love the smell of my own shit. So I get that. I get there are moments when we're at a dinner party and you're like, ooh, someone's got, like you're in a cul-de-sac right now, a cul-de-sac of unhappiness. That's fine. But then there's like the longevity of you'll never be happy. You didn't take responsibility for your own personal happiness, and therefore you're blaming it on everybody around you. And the closest person to you is your spouse. And the next closest person to you is whoever's sticking around. And I don't want to hang out with those people anymore.
Well, my single girlfriends are all about, they're like, let's get back in the dating game. Let's get on the dating sites because now we can talk to people and people aren't just trying to jump your bones immediately and you can get to know people. It's like, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to wait till the cloud lifts and I can see somebody in person again. But right now, nobody's thinking about swapping spit and getting all close to people.
But this is how, when it comes to meeting a new person to be romantic with, I definitely need to be able to trust your judgment. There's a lot of things that are attractive to me, not just your physical container, but like, I want to see you moving through the world in space. How do you interact with other things? But until then, I need to have a conversation with you. Can we trust, like there's building trust in other ways and that's slow going, which is why I'm like, I might start dating and pushing for screen time coffee dates.
That's fun.
Yeah, well, people are setting up dinner dates and having wine and cheese and chit-chatting with each other, candles.
And I think there's nothing wrong with going for a walk with someone outside.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
For your...
there we go with reinvention again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reinvention is all about not giving up on life's abundance.
Yes.
And not giving up on the adventure of life and the newness of life at every turn. A lot of my reinvention talk is for people my age who don't think they have worth anymore, who don't think that they have anything to offer, that nobody thinks they're going to be important anymore. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now you know more than most people walking on this earth.
Yeah, there's a benefit to this.
How much you have to share and to give and to take your time to do.
Yeah.
I think we should end on that note.
Which note? This one? This one? I'll find a note. I'll find it.
I know. Trust me, I'm tone deaf, so I won't be able to tell the difference. So
we're going to end it on a love note.
Yes. Well, I like this idea of approaching reinvention from the perspective of abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That if you focus on a world with an abundant mindset, you're able to build things. It's not a fixed pie. We can grow the pie. And one of the great benefits of being older is that we have the experience. We get to really understand and know who we are. And
Absolutely.
When you know who you are, you're able to know what your true dreams are, to use your language, Ro.
Absolutely. And speaking of couples, I have a lot of wives who come to my reinvention retreat and say, you know what? I have lived my life supporting my husband, making sure he got to the job on time with his lunch and his hot coffee. And now he's retired and I have never stepped out on my dream. It's my turn. And so we help people do that too. And I think that the cross generations that I have 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50, 60, everybody has something to offer to each other.
Indeed.
And everybody realizes their value, I hope, in the time that we spend.
You said couples. I want to just mention famous partnerships in history. You've got rats. Rolonda,
Rats, my Rolonda's repeat tender team, people who keep coming back.
Rats are to your pirate life as canaries are to coal miners.
Get out. You know something,
That's
Lily.
why I just got tingles hearing that.
Lily, we need to do something about women pirates. Let's do it. We need to do it. I think there were about 9 famous women pirates, but that's a whole other journey.
Gina Davis, you, me. Well, we got 6 more. Let's get on an adventure.
All right. I am stopping the recording. You two can keep talking, but I have to stop the recording.
Still here.
And another thing. Peter, we love you. Thank you so much. Peter. This was such an important conversation. And you're having really good, juicy conversations about solo, not so solo, duo, trio.
There's so many people in this solo.
How to navigate through life.
Thank you, Rolonda.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. For more about our guests and show notes, go to petermcgraw.org. Please subscribe and share with your single friends.